Welcome to another episode of Let's Parlay, where we are here to encourage you to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. I am your host, Monty Taylor, and without further ado, let's parlay. What's up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in for another episode. We are at episode 12. We are moving along very quickly. We're almost halfway through my goal of hitting 30 episodes for this year, which I'm very excited about. And I don't know, I think it's really improving my internal confidence just to be able to work towards something that I said I was going to do and following through with it. So I feel really good about it. Appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. I appreciate you for just stopping whatever you're doing or continuing to do whatever you're doing and listening to my behind speak about Lord knows what for today. But for this episode, kind of going along the theme since episode 10, I've been trying to go a little bit less scripted and a little bit less formatted with these episodes and with these podcasts. And this one, I want to open up just about something that I've experienced recently. It was something I decided to do for myself that I never thought I would do. Something that I literally looked at other people crazy at for doing. Like, yo, really? And lo and behold, here I am having done it myself. So that thing that I decided to do this past week was a 5-day water fast. Yes, you heard me right. 5 days of only water. I mixed that in with some electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, magnesium, and a squeeze of lemon just for taste. But other than that, it was just water for the past 5 days. Now, every time I've mentioned this to someone, they've looked at me like how I would have looked at someone telling me that they did this. Why in the world would you ever starve yourself for 5 days straight, nonetheless, or at all? And for me, I just feel like there were a couple things that went into my decision to start the fast. One, maybe just to open up a little bit, and I might have shared this in the past, but this year has really been a year where I've given myself to Christ, where I've really walked my faith out and not just said I believe something, but actually tried to, not even try, but actually looked into what the Bible says about, which sins that I've been living and experiencing and repeating all of my life that are not things that please God, that separate that relationship with Him. And I looked into those and I started saying, I think I really want to actually go through and do these things, not do the sins, but live a life without sin and actually try to see what that produces, but also see how it makes me feel and see what my relationship with God looks like as a result. And it has not been perfect since the beginning of this year. I've been slowly working towards, like purity in all senses of the word. I've been working towards, like just being more mindful of my tongue, which I'm still working on, and the words that I'm speaking. And I've just been more mindful of honoring God as much as I possibly can with everything that I do. And there were a lot of things that I've read in the Bible in the past, and I don't know about you, but this was definitely my experience. There's been a lot of things that I've read in the Bible or that I've heard Christians say that, oh, these are things that we should not be doing as Christians. And I don't know. I just think based off of my past experience, for me, it was back in 2018 when I had given my life to Christ, when I had, discovered and decided that I do believe in Jesus. Um, Ever since then, I've been having one foot in, one foot out. I've been kind of like tiptoeing the line of living in the world, but then also trying to be as godly as possible, trying to be this new creation that the Bible talks about once you receive Christ, once you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. Um, and I just didn't really have a good way of believing that I could do the things that the Bible said, let alone the things that Jesus did. And a couple of those things, like one, like, no sex before marriage, that was something that just, I was like, there's no chance that's happening for me. And even still to this day, like I have like my doubts, right, about it. But that was one thing that was very much something I never thought I would ever even want to try to do. And another one of those things was fasting. And I just thought that that was just the craziest idea ever. I've grown up having a pretty tight knit relationship with food. Okay. Like, I don't sit here and not finish plates. Like, I honor the food that's given to me. I never want to waste food. If people that I'm having dinner with or that I'm eating with are finished with their food and there's still some left over, I felt as if it was my moral obligation to eat the rest of whatever was left on that plate because I don't want any food to go wasted. And my justification for it was that there's people starving in this world. How dare we waste any food? To an extent, I still believe that, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a valid point. But I always found that as an opportunity to overconsume. And that's what led to me being, a little bit heavier when I was growing up, is just always having excess amounts of food and just having a capacity to eat more, just being a larger individual. So for me, I think the idea of fasting was just completely crazy to me. I was like, there's no chance I'm ever going to do this. And then last week happened. And for me, this year, I've been really tight with my nutrition. I started off the year around like 245 and then got down to around like 229, 228 within the span of around like 3 months. So I was doing that by remaining in a calorie deficit, hitting my lifts in the morning and then hitting a walk during the day at some point and doing that pretty consistently. And I felt the most confident I've ever felt in my body. I feel like I'm at a really good spot where, yes, I want to continue getting stronger. Yes, I want to maintain this body fat percentage. I'm probably hovering around like 9 to 10% body fat. And I was just like, yeah, this feels good. And then other things happened throughout the year where I got to see family and celebrated my birthday, hung out with friends, and I started like going back to old habits when it came to my nutrition and over consuming on snacks, over consuming on food. And I don't know what it was this past week, but I think it's a combination of all the things that are on my mind currently when it comes to my coaching service. Just to open up with you guys, like, I've been running my coaching purely by myself for the majority of this year, doing every aspect of my business, right? From, lead generation to nurturing leads to uh, selling my program to onboarding clients to delivering the program to my clients. All these different aspects of the business, marketing, all these things, while also running this podcast for the past 2 months. And I just realized that I can't keep doing this. Like, one, I'm capped at a certain amount of, financial return, but I'm also capped with how much I can like sustain this, because at a certain point, you're just gonna like hover around a certain amount of revenue, and you're not going to exceed past that unless you start to bring on a team. But also, I just didn't have time to do anything for myself. And any minute or any hour that I took towards something else, I would feel guilty for it because I knew that I had to do everything in order to sustain it. So that's been a part of my journey. And I've recently, started to form a team, started to bring people on to help me out with certain aspects of my coaching service. And it's been great, but at the same time, I've felt a bit more of this responsibility to shift into a different skill set, right? Which is more of the managerial space, more of the leadership space. And having that be something that kind of came up on me without me planning for it, it wasn't as if it was a skill that I was like, oh yeah, like I've been preparing for this, I'm ready for this. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I come across something that's new and there's uncertainty and there's things that I didn't plan for, sometimes you can get very much in your head about whether you're doing things right, what to do next, how to do it, how often you should be doing certain things. And that was just consuming my mind a lot for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say. And what happened for me was that last week I reached a point where things are, getting figured out, and I have a team that's helping me now, and it's great. Everything is going well, and I'm moving at the pace that I think makes the most sense. But I noticed that I started slipping into these habits of gluttony. Like, I just started losing my willpower in other areas of my life because I had so much more on my mind when it came to business and what to do next and uncertainty, that I would use that as an excuse to have an outlet for food, and using food as my outlet, I should say. And I didn't like that feeling. Like, I found myself like having an extra snack or two for no reason, and nothing crazy. It wasn't as if like I was eating like a bunch of ice cream and eating out and eating pizza, whatever have you. But I just found myself not being able to have a good grasp on my consumption of food, and since I've been so locked in and have had a good sense of my willpower throughout the year, it felt so off and disturbing that I was doing things that I felt like I wasn't having control over. I was like, something needs to change. I'm not the type of person that's going to just keep allowing myself to do things that are hurtful to me, even if it's small and if it's something that is not a huge impact on my overall goals. It's still going to start compounding, and that could trickle into other things, right? So for me, my worry is that, like, oh, okay, well, if I lose my willpower on food, then I'll lose my willpower when it comes to solving certain problems and figuring things out when it comes to my coaching service. I'll look at a problem and just want to go to food instead. Or maybe it'll be something with regards to family. I'll feel stressed out about a family situation, and instead of dealing with it head on and reflecting and processing on it, I'll go to food instead. And I was like, I do not want to have that relationship with food. And if anybody has experienced that, like, I feel you, and people who may look at me, they're like, oh, this guy's in shape. He's a fitness coach. He's got everything figured out. But this is something that I've personally struggled with probably the majority of my life, but I've realized that it can be an outlet when I am stressed and when it's something that I don't feel like I have a good understanding of how to figure out. So, yeah, anyway, so I'm giving you guys a lot of context going into the fast, but essentially, that was the biggest thing that I noticed. And I also felt a bit of a separation from God when it came to hearing his voice and when it came to prayer, and having a little bit more peace of mind. And I didn't want to live and keep going on with that relationship getting like further and further apart because of this gluttony. It was almost as if the food became my source instead of God. And you never want anything else to come in between that relationship with your Lord, because that's when you start getting in a misalignment. Like, the food can't serve me the same way that God can. Like, I want to be nourished on the word. I want to be nourished on, God's wisdom. I don't want to be nourished off of, excess amounts of snacks and food that make me feel good temporarily, but have their impact in the long term, right? I want things that may not feel good temporarily in the moment, but have a long-term residual impact. So that's what I decided, was that, hey, like, this gluttony, not only is it going to impact my physical body, but it's also impacting my relationship with Jesus, with God, and I don't want that to happen at all, because everything's been going so well with my relationship with God. I can't mess that up now. Um, so those were really the two main components that made me say, like, yo, it's time to go on this fast. It's time to actually put myself out there and do something that I feel like I've always said was not ever possible for me, but it's in the Word. It's in the Word of God. There's plenty of examples of Jesus fasting and getting closer to God whenever he was seeking guidance. And plenty of people within the Bible who had fasted in order to seek revelation or in order to seek clarity. Um, just so many different examples that I felt like, okay, if it's in the Bible so many times, it's got to be possible for me. And I used to say that I'm not created in order to do a fast, but if I'm created by God and in the Word of God, there's plenty of people who fast, then I'm capable of fasting. So I did a bunch of research on how to do it the right way, making sure that I was getting my electrolytes in, making sure that I wasn't overactive and, risking uh, the chance of like passing out and stuff. Like, I did not want that to happen, especially me living by myself and then me being such a large individual. If I pass out, I don't know who's going to carry me. Okay. That's just the honest truth. So I did a lot of research to make sure I did it safely. And I chose 5 days just because of the research that I looked into. One, there is a lot of science behind the cellular rejuvenation that happens. It's called autophagy. And essentially, whether it be in your gut or just throughout your entire body, from the third to like fourth and fifth day, that's when the autophagy period really reaches its peak. And I just always thought like, wow, like maybe there are some things that could be cleared up, and I could experience something that I hadn't necessarily experienced before because I've never gone through such a fast. So I was excited for one, the spiritual component of it, getting closer to God. Um, Two, the rejuvenation of my body and seeing some of those benefits. Three, the adjustment to my relationship with food. But then also, there were other components that I was looking to seek God for and seek out some more clarity and some more guidance. The other two things were one, on the business front, where am I heading with my Fit and Faith program, with the community that I'm looking to build? What's that vision look like? What's the strategy? What are the goals? That was one thing that I had prayed for. And the other thing that I had prayed for was, in my pursuit or in my desire to, be in a healthy, loving, romantic relationship, um, understanding what I would require from someone who I'm looking to, marry, and then also what I would desire as well too. So, what are the non-negotiables, and then what are some of those things that I actually would desire but aren't, must-haves or whatever. So those were the things that I was praying for throughout my fast. And I probably didn't do it perfectly, right? And I don't know if there is any perfect way, whether there is a way to go about it spiritually that it's perfect, or from the physical sense. I just went ahead and started. And that's typically how I live life is, if I feel called to do something, I'm going to do it. I don't care what other people say. And I'm going to make the best out of it. And even if I don't have all of the details figured out, I'm going to learn as I go. And that's just how I've lived my life ever since. So let's talk about the actual experience of the fast. For me, I looked into the research, and a lot of people said that by the third day, you're going to feel great. There's going to be so much spiritual revelation. There's going to be a lot of like peace and clarity that comes, and you're going to have, just a more manageable experience from the third day. I've heard from everyone that the first 2 days of the fast is just terrible. Like you're foggy brained, you can't really do much of anything. You may want to nap a lot. Um, you're hungry, obviously. That's going to be a big thing. You're going to be tired. And that was true. That definitely was true. The first 2 days were uh, absolutely terrible, and I think it's because this is the first time that I've actually done it. There was probably a mental component to that where I'm like, oh, like kind of getting hangry and just frustrated with how I'm feeling, and my stomach growling, and trying to figure out how long I can actually do this for. But then I also think that there is like a little bit of like a bodily component to it, where because my body is going through this for the first time, it's trying to figure out how to respond, right? So maybe if I were to do it again 5 to 6 months down the line, my body's used to doing the fast, maybe it'll be better. But anyway, first 2 days were terrible. I did all that I possibly could. I had a few meetings sprinkled here and there, had some conversations with family during those times. And they definitely looked at me. They're like, hey, you all right? You look like you got something on your mind. And it's like, no, I'm just I'm just hungry. Like it has nothing to do with you, dad. It has nothing to do with you, mom, or my brother. Like it, nothing to do with them in the moment, but it had everything to do with just like how I was feeling, and it definitely showed on my face. Hopefully, none of my clients noticed, but I did preface most of my meetings. Um, but transitioning into day three, this is when I was hoping to receive some of those like spiritual and enlightened feelings. And I got to be honest with you, it was a continuation of day one and two to a lesser extent on the hunger aspect of things. Like my stomach wasn't growling as much, but I definitely still felt like the same head fog and just like not being able to do anything. And I just found myself like wanting to nap so I can just get through it a lot faster. I will say that my sleep definitely improved. I definitely slept more just in general, even during the night, and slept pretty well. Like my Aura ring was telling me that I had some really good nights of sleep the first two nights and even the third night. Uh, so from my experience, the third day was not magical. Okay, I got to be real with y'all. Um, I will say though that even from the beginning of the fast, every morning I go into the Word, I read the Bible, and afterwards I pray. I did feel like the words were kind of like popping a little bit more as I was reading them, and I read it on my phone just because it's convenient and there's a devotional plan I'm doing on there. So I did feel like the words were popping out a little bit more, and I also will say that when I prayed, there wasn't as much on my mind as there normally is. So during the fast, I would pray and I felt like I really heard God's voice clearly and there wasn't anything else going on. Like no distortion, nothing. Like it wasn't any other thoughts coming in like how there normally was before I was on the fast. And I don't know if you've experienced this too, but sometimes you can sit still and just, close your eyes and all these other things that are having to do with your current life and what your problems are come in versus like there being silence and you just hearing God. And for me, that's what I felt was strong throughout the entire time was when I prayed, I heard God's voice very clearly. And um, when I read the word, like even with me being hungry and it being the first thing in the morning, like I was very attentive and I could digest it more than when I was like not fasting. And I could be very much like distracted and thinking of other things. So I will say maybe that spiritual component was pretty consistent throughout the fast. Um, Transitioning to the fourth and the fifth day. The fourth and the fifth day of the fast were very similar, where it was like the majority of the day, I still felt similar to days one through three. Not as bad. Like no real like strong hunger urges or no like real stomach growlings or grumblings. But what happened is like at some random point in the evening, I just got locked in, like a burst of energy. I've never felt like this sort of, it was almost as if like I had caffeine. And throughout the time, I had had like maybe matcha and black coffee on the first couple of days, but I pretty much stopped that on the fourth and the fifth day because I just felt like it wasn't really serving a purpose. And I didn't want it to kind of deplete my electrolytes. So I just stuck with the water. But yeah, on the fourth day, evening time, I just had a burst of energy and just felt like, all right, like I can be so productive right now. I'm going to get so much done, and that's exactly what I did. I just started working. I started journaling, uh, and just started reflecting on the fast as a whole. And that's where I found a lot of the benefits from the fast coming in was during those spurts of energy. And the fifth day was the same exact thing as well. The fifth day was actually on a Monday. So for me, Mondays I usually do all of my client check-ins. So I'm sending videos and checking in with them. And what happened was is like I usually do them in the morning, but in the morning I felt terrible. Like I felt nauseous while I was drinking the water, and every time I would speak, my mouth had this weird taste, and I just couldn't focus, and I couldn't do like another one. So I just napped. And then later on that day, that burst of energy came and I just started ripping through all these client check ins. So for me, that was my experience throughout the fast, and I had told myself that if, depending on how I felt on the fifth day, I would proceed to possibly do 2 additional days and go for seven. But I had so much on my calendar for the following 2 days that I could not risk being tired at any other point of the day and feeling that miserable. So I decided that I was going to conclude the fast at 5 days. So um, that was my experience with the fast. And, I would say that there were things that people had told me or that I'd researched that I experienced to be true. And there were other things that maybe weren't as valid for me in my experience. But one, I'm just proud of the fact that I actually took on that challenge and did it. Also, I would be remiss to say this. Another reason why I felt it was possible and why I got encouraged to do it was because one of my clients, and I'll shout her out, Ashley, she had told me that she was going to go on a fast. I think it was the day before that I had started. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, one of my clients, woman of faith, who is going to go on a fast, if she can challenge herself to do it, like why, like I should be able to challenge myself to do it. I can't be her coach and be all Christ-like, but then not do this one thing because of my strongholds that I have on it. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out Ashley, because if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have even started the fast. But yeah, that was my experience with the fast. Since then, I've been doing a very like slow refeeding process. So, bone broth, eggs was my first meal to break the fast, and making sure to eat slowly and chew slowly, and then like slowly introducing carbohydrates, not too much. The main reason for that being is I've heard that there can be a risk of like an insulin spike, and you just don't want that. So, me living by myself, I just wanted to be as safe as possible. And again, I know nobody's going to pick me up and carry me, so I just need to make sure I'm good. But that was my experience, y'all. I just wanted to open up and share that with you, and I also wanted to say that this is just an opportunity to maybe share an experience where I thought I wasn't able or capable of doing something, and it was all because of me trying to attach to my old self. It was me identifying with the old version of Monty and not the new creation in Christ that I've stepped into. And for those folks who are believers, for those folks who are even just looking to challenge themselves and, believe certain fallacies that you cannot do something or that you cannot learn something, just go ahead and commit to it. Just say that you can and that you will. And however long it takes, however much it may suck in the moment, just follow through with it. And I have a lot of confidence that whatever that thing is, you will achieve it. Like you will receive whatever it is you doubted yourself on, because you just made the decision to do it. Like what happened for me was like I said I was going to do 5 days in the fast minimum. And no matter how terrible I felt, I was like, I'm doing these 5 days. So regardless, it's going to happen. Kick and scream all you want. Like I'm doing these 5 days. So for me, that was something that I felt was a huge takeaway, and something that I hope for yourself, whoever's watching here, can look back on your life and just say to yourself, hey, I can do whatever I put my mind to. And as cliche as that sounds, it's true. And it's something that you really have to believe for yourself and actually walk out by faith. So that's all I really wanted to share with you guys today. Was just about my fast, my experience. Lastly, I wanted to share a scripture that I found to be helpful and really driving home the importance of a fast. It's from Joel chapter 2, verse 12. Even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning. And what I really took from this was that like fasting is a call to return back to God, with sincerity, with love, and with that sacrificial step. It's really just saying, I am going to give way with all these things that my worldly desires. I want to give away with all these things just for you, God, just to get closer to you, just so I can have that relationship with you that I know will be the real fruit that I can consume. And that was my experience for sure. Like I've definitely felt a huge burst of energy coming out of this fast. And it's something that I think I'm probably going to do like twice a year. I'll probably do it again at the beginning of 2026, just as a nice restart. And I just feel like it's something that um, it's just a good practice to one, like, improve your willpower, to improve your ability to sacrifice things for a longer term goal, and also to receive revelation during that time as well too. For me, I did get a lot of clarity on the things that I was praying for. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything is super clear now and I've got it and life is fixed and I know exactly what to do next, but I do feel a lot more confident in my relationship with the Lord and walking with Him moving forward and not going through this by myself and on my own power and on my own control. So that's been my experience, y'all. That was my 5 day fast. I recommend it for anyone. Obviously, if you have any pre-existing conditions, if you have any health or biomarkers that are low, and there may be a risk of certain things, and obviously, consult with somebody or adjust the fast to whatever it is that makes the most sense for you. It doesn't have to be a complete water only fast. But for me, that was my experience. I will say on the physical front, I probably come into the fast around 235. Now I'm around like 224. So it's about 11 pounds that I lost, and half of that is probably just water weight. And then the rest might be body fat, might be some muscle that I lost. So just wanted to let you know about that component as well too. But I just didn't think that that was the most important thing. But that was my experience, y'all. Wanted to share that, and hopefully it's something that resonates with you. Um, and also, feel free to reach out. Okay, like if you have any more questions about fasting. I also learned a lot about nutrition during that time. I was on YouTube going through all sorts of different rabbit holes, and I've actually learned a lot about how I want to adjust my diet and just experiment, just based off of my digestion and wanting to improve that. But I'll share that perhaps on future episodes. But that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Hope that you've been encouraged to bet on yourself, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be in your career, whether it be in fasting or in dedicating yourself to Christ and being a godly man or a godly woman. Take the bet on yourself. See what happens. You never know what you're going to get in return. And I believe that you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the outcome when you actually decide to take those risks. So, yeah, appreciate you. God bless, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.